What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this video, you could be sitting on thousands of dollars in back pay from the Social Security Administration that you don't even know about? What if thousands of people just like you have already discovered they're owed an average of $4,600 in retroactive payments, and the SSA has been quietly processing these claims while most Americans remain completely unaware? Would you want to know if you're one of them? If you found that hook interesting and want to learn more about potentially life-changing financial information, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now because we're diving deep into a situation that could put real money back in your pocket, and you won't want to miss any of our upcoming videos about maximizing your Social Security benefits. Here's what's happening right now across America, and it's bigger than most people realize. The Social Security Administration has been conducting what they call systematic reviews of benefit calculations, and during these reviews, they've discovered that thousands upon thousands of beneficiaries have been underpaid for months or even years. We're not talking about small amounts either. The average back pay discovery is hovering around $4,600, but many people are finding out they're owed significantly more, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. But here's the thing that's really shocking: most people who are owed this money have no idea it exists. The SSA doesn't exactly advertise these systematic reviews, and they're not sending out mass notifications to every potentially affected beneficiary. Instead, they're processing these corrections somewhat quietly, which means if you don't know to look for it, you might never discover that you're owed money that's rightfully yours. So how exactly does this happen? How do you end up being owed thousands in back pay without knowing it? The answer lies in the complexity of Social Security calculations and the various factors that can change over time. When you first apply for Social Security benefits, the SSA calculates your monthly payment based on your earnings history, your age when you claim benefits, and several other factors. But here's where it gets complicated. Sometimes the information they use for that initial calculation is incomplete or incorrect. For example, let's say you worked for an employer who was slow to report your earnings to the Social Security Administration. Your benefit calculation might have been based on incomplete wage information, resulting in a lower monthly payment than you were actually entitled to receive. Or perhaps there was an error in how your work credits were calculated. Or maybe changes in the law retroactively affected your benefit amount in a way that wasn't initially accounted for. The SSA has also been discovering errors related to spousal benefits, survivor benefits, and disability determinations that have resulted in underpayments stretching back months or years. In some cases, people who switched from one type of benefit to another, like from disability to retirement benefits, experienced calculation errors that left them receiving less money than they should have been getting. But here's what makes this situation even more interesting: the SSA is legally required to pay you any back pay that you're owed, and this money typically comes with interest. So not only are you entitled to the missed payments, but you're also entitled to compensation for the time you went without that money. The interest rates aren't huge, but when you're talking about thousands of dollars over multiple years, it can add up to a meaningful amount. Now, you might be wondering, how do you find out if you're one of the people owed back pay? The first thing you should do is create or log into your My Social Security account on the official SSA website. This online portal gives you access to your complete Social Security statement, which includes your earnings history and benefit information. Look carefully at your earnings record to make sure all your wages are properly reported, especially for recent years. If you notice any missing or incorrect wage information, that's a red flag that your benefits might have been calculated incorrectly. You should also review any correspondence you've received from the SSA over the past few years. Sometimes they send notices about benefit recalculations or corrections that people don't fully understand or simply set aside and forget about. Another important step is to understand the different types of back pay situations that are currently being discovered. One major category involves people who were affected by changes in Social Security law that weren't properly applied to their individual cases. For instance, there have been situations where legislative changes that should have increased certain people's benefits weren't automatically implemented in their payment calculations. Disability beneficiaries are finding themselves in particularly interesting situations. Some people who transitioned from Social Security disability insurance to retirement benefits at full retirement age discovered that their retirement benefit calculation didn't properly account for their complete work history, resulting in lower payments than they should have been receiving. The SSA has been conducting systematic reviews of these transition cases and finding significant underpayments. Widow and widower benefits represent another area where substantial back payments are being discovered. The rules governing survivor benefits are incredibly complex, And there have been numerous cases where the SSA initially calculated these benefits incorrectly, particularly in situations involving divorced spouses or when the deceased worker had complex earning histories. What's really important to understand is that the SSA's systematic reviews are ongoing, they're not a one-time event. This means that even if you've already been contacted about back pay, or even if you think your benefits are calculated correctly, there's still a possibility that future reviews could uncover additional money owed to you. But here's something crucial: there are time limits on how far back the SSA will go to correct underpayments. Generally speaking, they can only provide back pay for a limited period, which is why it's so important to identify and address any potential issues as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the more potential back pay you might lose access to. If you suspect you might be owed back pay, what should you do next? First, gather all your Social Security-related documents, including your annual statements, any correspondence from the SSA, and records of your work history. Then, contact the Social Security Administration directly. You can call their national number, visit a local Social Security office, or use their online contact options. When you contact them, be specific about your concerns. If you've noticed missing wages in your earnings record, point that out specifically. If you think there might have been an error in your benefit calculation, explain what makes you think that. The more specific information you can provide, the better equipped they'll be to investigate your situation. It's also worth noting that if you do discover you're owed back pay, the payment process can take some time. The SSA has to verify the underpayment, recalculate your benefits, and process the back pay payment. This can take several weeks or even months, but the good news is that once it's processed, you'll typically receive all the back pay in a lump sum. One thing that many people don't realize is that discovering you're owed back pay can also affect your future monthly payments. If the SSA determines that your benefits were being calculated incorrectly, they'll not only pay you the back pay but also adjust your ongoing monthly payments to the correct amount. This means you could see both a lump sum payment and an increase in your regular Social Security checks. The bottom line is this: if you're currently receiving Social Security benefits, or if you've received them in the past, there's a real possibility that you could be owed money that you don't know about. The SSA's systematic reviews are uncovering underpayments affecting thousands of beneficiaries, and the average amount owed is substantial enough to make a real difference in people's lives. Don't assume that just because you haven't heard anything from the SSA, your benefits are calculated correctly. Take the initiative to review your Social Security statement, check your earnings history, and contact the SSA if you have any questions or concerns about your benefits. The money you discover could change your financial situation significantly, and it's money that's rightfully yours. You just need to know to look for it.